Hello, everyone. We are back. It's a Monday. It just thundered really loudly outside here, so hopefully I can maintain power through this. But we are back to talk about Surviving Bloomington, Mischief Makers, Season 7, here on Live Reality Games. And as always, I'm joined with my counterpart, Steven. Steven, the brains to my brawn? I don't know. I was trying to come up with like an opposite, but I'm not really
I'll
brawny,
accept that.
so I don't
You know, the
know.
merge to my pre-merge elimination. Maybe we can go there too.
Yeah, the merge to your pre-merge. Right. How are you,
Well,
Steven?
I'm doing well. It was exciting to see the merge, exciting to see the lines, I believe, slowly getting blurred between the two sides. Not yet, but give it another episode too, and I think we'll have some very dynamic gameplay coming. You heard from the players themselves. I think it was Maggie who said, I don't think we're going to see boring gameplay out of these players. Or was it Brittany? One of the two of them dropped that quote. I was like, yeah, it's coming. Not this episode, but the storm is brewing.
Yeah, literally and in the show. Yeah. Lots to talk about. Very long episode.
But more importantly, we have two all-star guests to join us to help break it down. Our first guest, the winner of Surviving Bloomington All-Stars, a vet of many other games, Jordan. Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm happy you're here.
I missed you guys.
Merge is always one of the most crazy dynamic episodes, and you were on site. And so, in a little bit, we're going to kind of pick your brain about what you remember and what it was like watching back. And Drew, we have another guest here. I'll let you introduce her.
We do. We have backstabber extraordinaire, personally to me. And I will never let it go, and I will never forget. And because she's muted, she can't argue back. We have the winner of previous season of Surviving Bloomington, Order versus Chaos, season 6. To help to take out both myself and Steven, we have Rachel. Rachel, how are you? And how has this season been? You're entirely unspoiled.
I was doing fine until you introduced me and silenced my voice right off the bat. Okay. Interesting talking about power and privilege. I am completely unspoiled this season, which is kind of amazing that so much time has passed and somehow I haven't heard anything. And so life circumstances and World Cup, I just caught up on all of lost chapters and the merge within last night and this morning. So it's all fresh in my brain. I'm ready to dive in and talk about it. So let's go.
Sorry, tech issues on all of our ends. Yeah, let's talk about this episode. So Jordan and I obviously are spoiled, but we were just talking about how like we're like kind of actually unspoiled because we don't remember anything that happens. But I've done a little bit of research for this episode to answer a couple of questions that Steven had for me. So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to ask and we'll do the best we can. But Steven, let's dive into this episode. What were your thoughts on the actual merge? They merge. They see that there are two people returning. Jacob looks very unhappy, was the first note that I wrote down.
I should have been paying more attention. I was just excited to hear the kind of like there's two people and like just kind of I was thinking how back in our season, Jamie is the redemption player and is sequestered for several hours when the merge first comes together as they figure out who the first jury member is going to be in that vote. And then Jamie gets to join the merge. And so I was very happy to see Carlos and Ryan are thrown straight into the group as soon as they come together. There's no holding pen waiting area for that to occur. And I was very happy to see that.
Well, they did have to spend a night alone overnight on redemption. So there was that. But yeah, they jump in, they bring the merge feast, which appeared to be like bananas, bacon, eggs. There were probably other things. And from my recollection, Stephen, one of the questions that you had was sort of the timeline of this episode. That was like the first thing that happened that morning of filming. Was they join the merge tribe, they merge. They're then sent back to camp for 2 hours. And in that time is when a couple of the groups make the trips back and forth between the camps. And their initial plan was to make the merge feast, but they just kind of snacked on a couple things, and everybody was kind of like, "Oh, we're so glad you're back. Okay, let's like figure out how 11 of us are going to live here." And then, of course, those strategy conversations happen. Rachel, what's your analysis of how these strategic relationships and alliances are laid out currently?
More importantly, how long was the bacon sitting out before it was cooked? That was like one concern I had. But anyway, all right, let me pull up my notes. So, well, I wanted to go back to how they were sequestered together that whole night. I feel like that was such an advantage for them to be able to, okay, we know it's us. What is our story going to be? How can we pull what we have together, what we've learned from everyone else on Redemption to our best advantage? Rather than just going in solo like Jamie did and being alone in their own thoughts for a few hours. I just felt like that really gave them a chance to get their story set, get their path laid out. I was really excited about the challenge and how they had to do the pick, because I was like, oh, this will help change things up. It's not going to be cut dry, red and blue. And then it ends up still being red and blue, more or less, in terms of how people are wanting to stay together, at least from what I saw and what we heard. It seemed that no one was really willing to split yet, and I kind of get it, but at this point, I just think, is that really the narrative you want all the way? Is it going to be blue all the way long? That's my question, and time will tell.
To answer your question about the bacon, it was at least a couple of hours, but not as long as it was on our season. So there's that.
More importantly, Drew, was there ranch dressing involved for someone to drink and cause themselves to be isolated purposefully? No,
I don't recall there being ranch, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Jordan, in the real time, I guess, or watching this back, at this point in the game, from what I remember, you weren't really like in the camps very much. Like you weren't seeing the you were seeing mostly like challenges and tribals. What was your kind of thought process or your analysis at this point in the season, or even watching it back?
I feel like when I'm on prod, I'm not very good at really paying attention. I'm just like focused on what needs to be done. But with this group in particular, I do remember just thinking that everyone seemed so cool. I was like, damn, I wish I was playing so I could like get to know these people. It's the first time that I met a lot of these people that I now like consider friends. So really what I remember is just the impact of like all of the personalities. Like there are a lot of really big personalities in this group, so it was fun even just to get to see like tribals and challenges.
I agree. There are a lot of people who know their role in front of a camera and know how to be the best TV version of themselves in front of a camera. And I agree. I like every person on this cast personally and as a TV character, which is crazy because I don't like a lot of people. So hi Taylor, hi Jacob, hi Valencia. Yeah, so they go to camp. A couple people move stuff back and forth. Taylor is really working on getting this fire going. Maggie, I think, also works on the fire a little bit. We then pull them for a challenge. They do the challenge, which we'll talk about in a second. They go back to camp and they're given, I want to say like 30, 45 minutes to strategize between the challenge and tribal council. We're also pulling them for confessionals in this time. And I just remember When it's time to go to tribal, Casey sends the message like, all right, Drew, bring him up. I announce like, hey, it's time to go. And Taylor being here, just looks up at me and she's like, I haven't even gotten to leave the main camp yet. I just got the fire started. We haven't eaten any of the merge food. They left me here by myself to cook it. And then like Savannah and Maggie and May were also kind of in and out of camp helping out. And she was like, can we at least finish? Can we eat?
Drew, am I petty for saying I would have just cooked myself breakfast?
So I don't think you're petty. I just think that with this specific group of people, I think I've said it since episode 1, since the cast reveal, this season has a really this season is full of a bunch of gamers. And so when they're merging, they're not worried about food. We can eat after the game. We're worried about peeling off and having these conversations. And that's a really big thing in this episode that comes up. And obviously we'll talk about like the strategy and everything, but this is one of the main points of the episode, is that most of the group leaves, Taylor and Savannah primarily, but also a little bit of Maggie and May, to figure out the cooking and the camp setup and everything while they're off getting to strategize. And by the time it gets around to being time to vote, Taylor is in tears to me, being like, wait, I haven't gotten to leave camp. Like, I've been cooking and making a fire for 2 hours for everyone. And solution to that, I basically call Casey. I'm like, hey, we're giving them 20 more minutes, and told Taylor basically like, go talk to people, go eat. And we're jumping ahead a little bit, but Taylor being here, I'm like, let's just talk about this now because it's one of the main focuses of the episode. Jordan, thoughts, feelings, analysis.
It was really funny because I genuinely don't remember like this happening, because I didn't spend time at the campsites, but I was watching the episode before anything was even said, and I was like, of course all of the women are like building the fire and like bringing all the stuff. Like, it was very obvious just from like the footage, like it's right in your face. And then obviously it ended up towards the end of the episode being a bigger deal, a bigger storyline. But it's funny because, you know, Taylor and I were in a game together like a few weeks ago, and it's the same story. And it might not be something that is super evident, but it's interesting how those roles just kind of happen, right? And it's the same story of like, well, you don't have to do it, like you're choosing to do it, but it's like, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it, and then none of us are going to eat, and then the camp isn't going to be built, and then we're all going to be sopping wet, right? Like, so yeah, it was just funny. As soon as the footage of them merging came up, I was like, of course all the women are doing this. It's a tale as old as time from my perspective.
And Rachel, what did you think when seeing this in the episode?
I reflected a lot because I think on one hand you would think, well, she's a stay-at-home mom, she'd probably be cooking too. And I don't know that I would in my season of life now. I think I have learned to not stand up for myself, but I have learned when I'm comfortable doing what I want and to be selfish sometimes. And so I don't think in my particular season of life that I would have stayed back to cook. Partially, I'm too anxious. I didn't eat the merged meal season 6, like bacteria fear 2. But I just don't think I would have stayed back. But I think in other seasons of my life, I can think of when I was silent, and I can think of when I just went with what was expected. And so I think people's experiences and influence how they play the game. And so I think, thankfully, I've had times in my life where I've learned I don't have to do this because everyone's expecting me to do this. Or we may all starve later, but they'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Or I'll eat if I'm hungry. If I'm not, I'm going to play. So, but I don't, and I think it was what I hate though is like Taylor's the one that suffers. Like she's the only one that feels that burden out of the people vulnerable. And so it put her in an extra unfair position to both feel that responsibility and to just probably have like be a kind person and want to help, and then no one really cares to help me or to, hey Taylor, let me take over the fire and you go get in these conversations. And I think anytime you're in an isolated position in Survivor, that vulnerable spot, it never feels good to be left alone, on top of being left alone when you're trying to serve other people. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and I think Taylor got lucky because from my recollection, Taylor was the main one working on the fire and trying to get the food going. And luckily, she ends up being safe. She ends up winning immunity. So then it falls back onto Savannah, where Savannah is essentially Taylor's backup person. And Savannah has to worry about getting voted out, but also not leaving Taylor alone to deal with a whole tribe's worth of food and fire. Because it was wet and raining, and you need help sometimes when your firewood is all wet. Yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting how it shook off. And I'm sure that like Ryan and Carlos and Mariah and Jacob and Eric, like, and Joel, I'm sure they're not consciously thinking like, oh, someone else is handling it, so I don't need to worry about it. I think they're more so thinking like, well, I don't need to eat right now. I need like talking and like progressing in the game is more important. So they split off to have those conversations, being like, I can worry about food later. I don't need it right now. But then it ends up being this situation. Jacob leaves.
Apologize for the huge comment blocking half our people here. I'll say it quickly. Jacob's comment is that I think the respect for Carlos and Brian is that they just got back in the game. Eric was the target for 3 rounds in a row coming to this moment. There was a discussion of heading back to Blue Camp to grab all the stuff together. So when that didn't happen, it really split up the camp in the merge celebration. By the time I got back there was new keys hidden, scrolls, and everyone was scattered. And I guess I want to toss it to Jordan. You've been in other merge situations. Have you seen generally what's the dynamic been like? Because we hear Brittany saying like, I had visions of what a merge would be like, and this was not it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like typically a merge feels like where everyone's coming together. I think where this is a little different from other games I've played, like in other games, it's more kind of structured. Like you're in this like confined area and there's like boxes of pizza, right? Like, so everyone is like, it's time to eat now. Like we're all doing this at the same time. I think it's a little different when there's like food brought to camp. And I don't want to get like too far ahead. I know we're going to talk about this, but during Tribal, I loved what Maggie said, where it's like, it's not that any of us feel like you guys were intentionally doing this, like out of malice and out of like disregard. It's just the fact that this always happens. It's in the game, it's in real life, it's even on production, right? Like it is a common thing that happens. And if we just make excuses and don't just acknowledge that this is something that happens, that is where I think it goes wrong. Like I loved in the episode when Eric got the biggest points when he was just like, I messed up, I didn't help, I'm sorry, I'll try to make up for it. Like there was no explaining, there were no excuses, there was no defensiveness. It was just like, I'm validating your feelings, you're totally right, I didn't help, I'm sorry, I'll try to make up for it. And I was like, okay, Eric, like let's go. Like just taking accountability and to me that immediately, as a person that has been in that situation before, like it's immediate relief, as opposed to someone trying to be like, well, like all these things are happening. Like we already know all these things are happening. We already know, like we're intelligent people. We know we have choice, but it's just something that always happens. And I think recognizing that pattern and just like owning that sometimes we all contribute to that is like the most important thing. And even Carlos, I think when he was voting, he was like, I want to say I am one of the people that didn't help, and I'm sorry about that. And it's
Yeah,
like,
I think Carlos and
great.
Jacob both, when they were voting, like Jacob said, wow, this has given a lot of perspective and a lot to think about. And I think that reflection is good and healthy. So yeah, it's something that happened. Savannah and Taylor took the brunt of it, and I'm glad that it was brought up. Like, I'm glad that for as much else that they have to think about, I'm glad that it was brought up and it became a group discussion instead of one person or two people, I guess, in this situation, just having to like internalize it and deal with it in confessionals.
Yeah, I'm super proud of them for bringing it up, because especially like Savannah said, like, I'm in a vulnerable position. The last thing I need is to bring up these like feelings that I have of being like pissed off, and then they're really going to target me. So I was definitely like so proud of all of the women that were like drew attention to it as opposed to just like minimizing it. I thought that was great. Really happy that Casey left it in there. I think that there are a lot of people that would have just easily snipped around that and cut it out and just, kept it to gameplay. And I thought it was great that Casey left it in there. And I also think that having these games filmed and we get to watch ourselves back in that moment is such an incredible gift. It might be really uncomfortable, but it's really cool to get to see yourself and how you're reacting. And no, not a lot of people get that opportunity,
I agree.
I wanted to say, going off to someone said, and I forgot to write it down, but they talked about growth and discomfort, and that conversation was uncomfortable, but I really truly believe everyone there will stop and think. Next game they play, they might be more willing to be like, hey, you don't need to be doing this right now. Like, go play the game. Like, this can wait. You don't need to you don't need to worry about this fire or cook this. Like, someone else will handle this. Like, right now, everyone's talking. You need to get in that conversation too. You need to be in on your game. So I thought it was handled well, and I did think the way everyone responded makes me think that it hit home for everyone, and they are going to stop and think and observe more. And I don't think that situation will happen again with those people.
Totally agree. Also, Josh Blaker in the comments saying Taylor got lucky is crazy. I'm saying she got lucky in regards that in having to deal with all of this, she also did not have to deal with the stress of being up for elimination. Unlike Savannah, who we see that is what causes this to bring up, because she's having to deal with not only camp life responsibilities and that being thrown on her, but also having to try and stay in the game. Whereas Taylor lucked into, like, I mean, yes, she did her part in the challenge, but luckily she did not have to worry about also trying to save herself. Ty, hello, Ty. Exactly. Big props to Savannah for speaking up, and we love when real life situations can be addressed.
I mean, okay, so it's a real feels bad moment with the episode that Savannah is the one that's eliminated. Again, it's just because you have such a big moment for Savannah, just like, with this outpouring of like, here's what I'm feeling, here's my frustration. I'm sacrificing the strategy time to do this stuff for the tribe. And I know it's this kind of trade off, and then she's voted off. Like, oof, it's hard, and I know like it's definitely not why she got voted out at all. There's other reasons for that, but just like, oh man, it's like it's hard.
All right. Anybody else have anything more to add to this discussion right now? I feel like this was like one of the main points of the episode, and I definitely don't want to just be like, let's move on.
No, I think again, just props to Casey for the editing, for leaving it in there. Casey and I were having a conversation the other day about how, like, when you're editing these episodes and these seasons, like, you have so much power to really, like, you can make anyone look like a villain and you can make anyone look like an angel, right? Like, you have so much like content. And I think that just the way that Casey takes such care to tell a story without trying to manipulate it for like views, right? Like, without trying to like, you know, make someone look worse than what it is, or, you know, whatever. So props again to Casey. I think that there's another social thing where, like, when they're doing the schoolyard pick and Mariah's picked last is like another thing where I was like, of course, like the oldest person there like wasn't chosen. And I won't even open that can of worms, but I think that this episode was like super ripe for like all of these social things that
I will
happen
say
in-
Mariah did also have a hip injury.
Yeah, but she didn't. Is that why she didn't get picked? Because I think in her confessional, she said, you know, that doesn't make me feel good. That hurts my feelings. Like, I'm also wondering, like, I've been busting ass in these challenges. Like, why am I not getting picked? So
that is something that we should talk about as well, with her being like, I was going to be mad, but then I saw what the challenge was and was like, just kidding. I'm automatically safe. Hee hee. But yeah,
right.
But Jordan, do you remember? Because he didn't tell them what the challenge was, right?
I don't think so.
Y'all are
Okay, so question. Mariah gets automatic safety, but I know in CBS oftentimes there's the wager aspect of the person who's not chosen picks which team they want to win. If they're correct, they win. If they lose, they're unsafe. Do you feel like it was too good to give her immediate immunity, or this was a correct for, this is a nice consolation prize for being last in the pick?
I think in retrospect, like, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference, but I think from a formatting and like a game mechanic standpoint, I don't love the automatic immunity. But I love Mariah, so I'm like, if anyone, sure.
I think it's a nice.
I like it. Oh, sorry.
Yes. No, you go, Rachel.
Okay, maybe it's because I was always last pick on those sort of things, and because I'm small, tiny, and I don't even kick ass in challenges, so it's like, I get it, but I think I can't even have that line. But I like it because it kind of flips the script. I think it shows sometimes like the game can reward and flip the power, and so I think I like it more than having a choice. I like that you just got it, because that's what happens, especially in Surviving Bloomington. There is a pattern of flipping power for a weaker person, or perceived weaker person. And so I think it went along with the narrative of Bloomington anyway.
I totally agree. And Carlos even added, this is something I didn't even think about, and I don't know that I would have even thought about in the moment. They're also, when you're choosing people to be on your team, you also have to think like, well, if we lose, it has to be people I'm willing to vote out. So,
which I love. I mean, I think I love that strategic aspect. Like, you don't want all blue, because if you all lose, a blue's going home. You want to say, all right, who is someone that will be targeted before me that I can bring on? And so I think that's why you see kind of that nice mix of red and blue across two teams, because everyone wants a fail safe.
Yep. Yeah, and Casey just commented that he hates dodgeball picks. So this is the only way he was super willing to go about it. And I think that is very funny, because I mean, getting picked last doesn't feel good. And so this is a way to reverse that. Jordan, what were you saying?
I don't think I had anything else to contribute. And I did think about that because I just watched the episode like right before this, so it's kind of like fresh in my head. But I've definitely been in that scenario where it's like, you know, that one team is going to be immune and the other isn't. So like, you don't want all of your allies on your team, because if you lose, one of you's going, right? So like, I'm very aware of that. And again, it's just one of those things where it's like, everyone has their own motivations and intentions in their head, but it's still that the person that didn't get picked is the oldest woman. that's still true, right? You can have your own intentions and things are going on, but it's still the women that are building camp and building the fire. So until we like acknowledge that this is something that continues to happen, like it'll just keep happening, right?
Right, and even to add on to that, it's like, well, they didn't even know what type of challenge it was gonna be. Like, diversify your portfolio with your picks here. Like, Mariah has been good at so many other challenges through the season. She really has. Like, when she mentioned, like, she's been busting tail in these, like, she really has been busting tail in these challenges when you look back at all of her other performances. Like, she has not caused a team to lose. So it does need to be acknowledged. And I'm glad that it was flipped on its head. Now, format-wise, I don't know that I love it, but I do think that it is thematically fitting. I guess let's talk about this challenge. Steven, explain to us this challenge. Also, hi, Mackenzie.
Yeah, so in this challenge, teams will send runners out one after another, increasing differences to collect pieces for a puzzle. The puzzle is a 3D block, so after all pieces are collected, two players will turn the pieces into a cube to solve it. Other things to note: in the farthest puzzle reach is what seems to be a bag with a key on it, and Ryan is the one that runs and gets to it first. So he is rewarded for taking the most challenging aspect of it. Yeah. I guess I'll throw it to Jordan. Jordan.
Sorry, I took a sip of my drink at the worst possible time.
It's like Drew just leaving the awkward silences for us to know. Jordan, where would you have wanted to be in this challenge?
Ugh. I honestly hate challenges, Stephen. I know I couldn't do the puzzle, but I also hate running. So I like would not be able to contribute to the puzzle at all. So I'd probably end up having to run, but that's just not.
So in the moment, you felt like May.
I felt like May. I was like, as soon as I turn that corner and no one can see me, my ass is walking for sure. And then as soon as everyone can see me, I'll like act like I'm jogging again. But yeah, I'm not a challenge girly.
Yeah, I would have been with you, Jordan, on wanting to be on the puzzle and then probably forced to be on the running. I did somehow win the running challenge in season 6, but that was less so because I'm good at running and more so because I just answered all the trivia questions right and everybody else kept getting them wrong. Because I am not a cardio guy. But yeah, I would have wanted to be on the puzzle. Rachel, I know you're a runner. So you would have wanted to be on the running part, right?
I'm not a runner, but I'm not a puzzler, so I would have ran my heart out until I was done.
Steven, I'm assuming you wouldn't have been a puzzler.
I don't volunteer. So I would have probably seen if other people would have stepped up first before going and say, I guess I'll do the puzzle if no one else wants to do it. How will I do? Who knows? I like puzzles more than I'm good at puzzles. As a sad thing I've had to learn about myself.
I think puzzles of that type are typically more difficult than they appear.
I need to work on my 3D geometric shape puzzles. I have a little kit that work on it. At least I prefer that. I prefer that over just a giant nasty jigsaw puzzle. So I'll say that much.
I see. I like a visual puzzle. A 3D puzzle is not my forte. So if you want to send me a backup kit, I would love to practice.
All right.
But we do get, so Mariah automatically wins immunity, and then the team of Brittany, May, Maggie, Ryan, and Taylor are all immune, which leaves Carlos, Eric, Jacob, Joel, and Savannah as the only people who can vote, but everybody gets to vote. I don't like 6 out of 11 people being immune. I'm sorry, Casey. I don't like it. But
Casey loves Earn the Merge, right? This is Earn the Merge without the hourglass. So this is the palatable version of it, right?
Oh, I'd rather have this than the hourglass. So
okay, so I'm gonna throw another question to Jordan. Jordan, you are on the red team, right? You're originally red tribe. You're in the minority. How do you play this, right? Do you simply look to say, hey, I'm self-preservation mode. I'm just going to sacrifice the ally here. Or you say, we're gonna win this vote and play everything we have to make it happen. Where are you at on this decision? Because that's, I think, ultimately what May, Joelle, and Taylor kind of have to grapple with.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how strong your relationships are and how much knowledge is out there with like advantages. If you're with like a core minority, but like your core is so close that like we can pull keys together and like make something happen, then I think, yeah, like first priority would be great to have everyone survive, maybe pull off a blindside or something. But if your core alliance, if you're not that close, then yeah, like you kind of have to go into self-preservation. So I think that there's just a lot of nuance to that. I personally would love to keep the core together, work as like a really strong alliance for everyone to make it through.
I just find it so scary to say, hey, in that merge, I'm going to cede power to the other side and have to ride the wave and hope that, like, by the time people are ready to make a move, I am still around for it. Rachel, would you take this? Do you feel the same as Jordan, or do you feel differently?
I think based off previous experience, I've gone into self-preservation mode. So I would probably do what I normally do. I am surprised with the layout that they weren't able to get traction on Eric. It just seems like he has a story building. Like that it automatically was Joelle or Savannah was surprising to me. And props to Eric for doing the work, but it seemed like Joelle and Savannah in the confessionals we saw, they came off very defeated and they felt like their hands were tied to preserve themselves. They'll do whatever they said. And then that also going back to our early conversation, that hurts. Taylor would want Savannah and Joelle to stay, but then she's not involved in these conversations to maybe try to use some of her social gain to change the tide if she wanted to without putting her, or she wasn't at risk anyway. But
yeah, I think Taylor played this pretty similarly to how I would have played it, where I realized like, okay, well, I'm not going to be targeted here, but I'm in a minority and I know one of my allies is. So like, what am I to do in this situation? I just say, you know what? I'll do whatever y'all are doing. Like, I'll jump in with you guys. Like, I'm a number for you. I'll help you guys out. If you want to help me out in the future, that'd be great. It's just so interesting because Jordan, you had mentioned like, if you're in a tight minority, you can like pull keys and advantages and such. And that is what the blue tribe did through this late pre-merge, is they were the tight minority and they all exchanged advantages and information and keys. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they go from being in like a 6-4 disadvantage to now essentially a 7-4 advantage. Which is really interesting. But yeah, and the Eric thing, Eric went from like target number 1 to like last on the hit list because, well, Eric's a shield. We'll just take him out later. He's always going to be. We hear that from like 3 or 4 different people. Eric's a shield. We don't need to vote him out right now.
What about Jacob? Like, why not Jacob? Why not Jacob here? If you get Jacob here, that swaps so much. I know, but why not Eric, Savannah, Joelle, and Taylor? Like, why can't they? It doesn't seem like they have that bond or trust enough to pull things together to make it happen. But if you're in the minority, you kind of need to find some new bond. I just don't. I think that would have been the most. If Jacob goes here, which I would never want you to go, Jacob, don't take this as anything. But I'm just saying that would really flip the game if he had gone, or just because so many people are tied to Jacob. And it just been so good for the drama.
I think you have to give a lot of props to Jacob and Carlos, because they're, at least in the episode, their names are not floated. Right? It's Eric is the only blue people are considering, and we hear a lot from Joelle that was like, I want Eric out of there.
Yeah, unfortunately, other people weren't taking that bait. Rachel, I agree that it would have been interesting for Jacob to go here. I just don't see how that possibly happens because you were saying like if the 4 red plus Eric, well, that's only 5 out of 11, and Eric is not working with red. There's like Eric is the like actively targeting red, like he's like Warhammer, like I want red out.
He
So while
said
that
red is dead, but
Mhm.
I'm just saying.
Exactly. So it comes down to basically Savannah or Joelle. And Stephen had messaged me earlier asking how did they determine which of the two? And I had no idea. So I texted a couple of the players and was like, what happened? Basically, they did decide Joel originally. They had a system where on the walk to tribal, they had a number of fingers assigned to each player. And on the walk to tribal, the person in front, I guess, would give the signal and they would like sort of pass it down the line as like, this is who we're voting for sure. We're all locked in on the same page. And they were originally, before leaving camp, they were on Joel. But Joel around camp, according to my sources, looked a lot more comfortable and confident than Savannah did. Savannah was clearly panicking. And so on the way to tribal, they flip it to Savannah, and that apparently upset a couple of people, which I want to see if that comes into effect next episode. But Jacob says that like he and Eric are trying to be predictable, which irritates Maggie and Brittany because Maggie and Brittany want stability. So I'm interested to see how that moves forward. But that's how that happened. Is it was Joel and then it flipped essentially on the way to tribal through hand communication.
Jordan, who would you have voted out?
I don't know. I don't know who I would have voted out. I do remember the whole time I thought Savannah was like looked super cool. So I probably would have kept her because my ass would have been making fire with her and Taylor and bitching about it. So we probably would have bonded over that. But I do like Drew what you said. I don't know who said that to you, but I do think it's funny, like in a scenario where you know that you're vulnerable and like maybe it's between you and one other person, that like even if your hands are tied, there are still things that you can do to like make other people paranoid. So I do think like just sitting around camp and acting like I'm not sweating this, then people are like, well, why aren't they nervous right now? You know, and like you can kind of get in people's heads even if you're vulnerable and you don't have anything. So I don't know if Joel did that on purpose, but if so, like props to you. It's a good tactic.
Props to Joel. I could never. You can read my face from a mile away. Good for him, whether it was intentional or not. Before we actually talk about like tribal council and the votes, there was a lot, I guess, that we skipped over as far as like camp life and conversations. Specifically, Joel got money for Easter eggs. Did y'all's like family or like whoever hide money in them? For us, it was just candy.
I thought he was like just giving money to buy the candy. That was my impression. Like it was just like, don't even hunt. We'll just hand you the money so you can get the candy yourself.
Yeah, my family would definitely put like $1 bills and eggs along with candy. Some had like, I don't know, dollar bills. Some had candy in them. The golden egg always had like a $20 bill in it though.
Can you adopt me?
Also, speaking of eggs, hold on. I wrote down a quote. Maggie is an egg queen. We hear in this episode. She calls herself an egg queen. So lots of eggs this episode. Also, I think very important, we get new bounties this episode. And tying in with those bounties, with Carlos and Ryan rejoining the game, they're each told that prior to re-entering the game, they'll each get to draw a power of mischief, and very funny, they end up drawing the same one. But basically it is a power. Stephen, did you write down what it was called? I don't know what it's called, but basically they get 2 bounties instead of 1, so like they can double their opportunities to gain rewards. Stephen, what was it called?
The bounty pouch.
Bounty pouch. Yes, and it never goes away until bounties do. And so they each get 2 bounties. Everybody draws new bounties. Some are happy. Most people are like, this is irrelevant, because a lot of people end up drawing their allies. Jordan, for you, and then Rachel, I guess afterwards, how big of a role are bounties in your brain? Like if you're playing, how important are bounties?
I think that it's really creative. I like the idea of it. I know for like my own capacity in a game, it probably wouldn't sway me that much. But if I was in a situation where it's like Savannah or Joelle, and I don't have a strong opinion either way, but one of them is my bounty, then I might like not tell people that, but I might come up with ideas for why this person should go as opposed to the other, right? But I don't think like if I knew like someone was my bounty, but then I started talking to them and I liked them and we meshed, like I'm not gonna turn them away from being an ally because of a bounty.
Rachel,
You have to mute yourself.
I was just saying, very similar to Jordan. If a situation comes up where they're already on the line, yeah, I might take the bite, but I probably won't try to drive a vote based off my bounty unless it serves a greater purpose to my game.
Yeah, I did not ever use bounties as a reason to target someone, and nor did I think about it. I think I've said this a million times on this podcast. I tend to not play the advantage game very much. That's just not how
Says the person who found the idol.
By accident. Rachel was there. It was an accident. I didn't even mean to find it. I wasn't looking for it. But yeah, no, it's just not something I consciously think about. Maybe it could come into play in a future game if I were to actually be like, okay, maybe I should focus on advantages. Stephen, you shared an interesting comment in our little private chat about bounties.
I have learned my lesson to never share who my bounty target is, with just the off chance it makes the person more paranoid about me. So I have learned my lesson the hard way. Before we go to Trouble Council, I just want to throw a couple just thoughts I had of the episode. First, Eric did have a shirt for the merch tribe with Brady Zimmer's face on it, but we were denied it, and I am so sad about that. Second, a favorite quote of the episode was Joel's like, "Where I go, you're with me always," and Taylor's like Jesus. And finally, Mariah, who to my understanding was in the #1 alliance with Jacob, just immediately goes, "Carlos and Ryan, come to me. You are my #1."
I literally wrote down that Mariah did that Toy Story meme that I don't want to play with you anymore to Jacob. The second Carlos and Ryan re-entered the game, she was like, Jacob #1, where? That's #3 now. He's not. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I was very shocked by that. And we'll have to see how that goes when if there's a moment where Jacob realizes like, how many Mariahs is invested in me as she once was anymore. So
yeah. We also get some Brittany backstory. Rachel, what were your thoughts on what we get to hear about Brittany?
She did the Iron Man after she got hit by a car. I already have been rooting for Brittany since day one. Like, I'm gonna root for another mama. That is who I am. That's the way it is. But just to hear her real life, like almost dying, not knowing if she was gonna be able to physically walk down the aisle, that her husband trained with her but didn't run it so that he could just see her accomplish it. Like, what a great partner. It was such a neat those are just such big experiences, and then to share that with all of us and gives me even more reason to keep rooting for her.
Yeah, I love Brittany, and I think that story is it just it shows a lot about Brittany. Like it gives so much backstory and so much more character to her. Um, and since you're rooting for moms, I do have another note about Mariah. This whole Mariah and May situation is beyond me. Where May's like, yeah, Mariah approached me and was like, did someone come up to you about being in this group? And May's like, no. And Mariah's like, okay, well, let me check with him to make sure that it's still gonna happen. And then like later it cuts to a conversation where Mariah's like, yeah, I haven't gotten to like talk to the person, but has like anybody, if you do not tell me a name right now of who this person is, I'm going to crash out in front of Casey and everyone. Like I need specific. Oh, someone might want to be. Do you want to be in an alliance or not? Jordan, thoughts?
I felt the same way, and I love Mariah, but I was like, that would piss me off so bad. And the fact that May was like, I'm just like that, and like I respect that she does that. I'm like, good for you, girl. But I would be like, what the hell is going on? Like, just tell me who you're talking about. Like, and I get it. Like, I understand why Mariah approaches it like that. I totally get it. But for me in that scenario, I would already be like so anxious that I would be like, just don't piss me off right now. Like, just tell me who you're talking about. Other sidebar, when we were talking about Brittany, I thought of this, but like, I loved how many people were crying in this episode. I was like, damn, by the end of it, I was like, they're going to think that we're like really torturing people at Surviving Bloomington, because we got like 5 or 7 different people crying in this episode. But this was like, what day was this?
This was the morning of day 4.
Okay. Day 4. Okay. I was going to say, I feel like things get really tough, like middle of day 3. That's when, like, I think tears start to happen. But yeah, that would have pissed me off for sure. The whole ambiguity with the alliance opportunity.
Yeah, and like what is May supposed to do? Like she's in the minority. Like she can't just be like, no, give me a name, or like what are you gonna vote me out with your 4 people? Like I understand, and also she was safe, and I don't know if that conversation actually happened in the real time before or after the challenge. But yeah, no, if you don't tell me who you're talking about right now, like so I can go ask them myself. Like we've got things to do, we've got votes to write. Like I need some more information here. Stephen, what were your thoughts on that interaction? Because the whole time I was just sitting there like, ain't no way.
I much like Jordan, I would be very weirded out. It's like there may be a alliance, you may be in it. I don't know. I'm just like, I would have gone and say, hey, you know, like I think I'm trying to put something together. I'd like you in it. I'm trying to corral their people. Would you be interested? Let me get back to more information as I talk to people. I would have kind of pitched a little different. I was like, this is someone else's thing. You may be in it. I don't know.
Right. And I feel like if I'm Mariah and I actually want May involved, I'm like, so we're thinking about a group of me, you, boom, boom, boom. I just like we should make sure everybody else is on board. You don't say like someone else wants you in a group that they also want me in, but maybe they changed their mind.
And that was Jacob, right?
They just want me, but not you.
And that person was Jacob, right?
I'm assuming it was either Jacob or Carlos.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because we see Jacob reaching over the tribal lines a lot here. Like Jacob is probably the person who's doing the most reaching across the lines.
Well, you're saying, you know, what else do you do when you have such a good conversation? If the answer is, if you're May, the answer is buy a power of mischief, immediately find the idol and rob Maggie of the idol as well. Worked out pretty well for me.
Well, speaking of idols, I think probably the last thing, well, I mean, I'm probably missing stuff, but one of the last big things, we get to tribal, we have this big conversation about the women having to essentially carry the camp on their shoulders. And we go to vote, and in the voting booth, May has been waiting all season to buy a power of mischief. She buys one. It's an idol clue. We then get cut back to Maggie getting essentially like the second stage of her idol clue. So we know not only is it buried, but it's buried at tribal. And we know that the rest of the core blue, deep blue knows about it because they're all sharing their stuff with each other. Because we see Brittany kicking around in the dirt in the voting booth to see if by chance something is there. And let me tell you, after Brittany walked out of that voting booth, all of us were like, because it was not buried very deep. So May buys the power of mischief, shows that it's buried, or says that it's buried and that you won't like walk into it by chance. She looks down at the table and sees the trowel that's been sitting there the whole season and immediately is like, why not? Digs like half an inch into the ground and finds a hidden immunity idol underneath where everybody's been standing in the voting booth. Rachel, thoughts, feelings?
Sorry. It was such a great moment that because we as the audience have seen this build and we know these clues are here, and then for May to just cash in when she did, get it when she did, it was beautiful. I think she, because of how she handled some of these, like that conversation with Mariah and finding that idol, you know that's going to come in big. So spoiler alert, she's in that top 3 player of the episodes for me, just from those 2 experiences alone.
Yeah, Stephen, thoughts not only on May finding an idol, so Red has hands now, but also just the methodology and how it happened. And she can't really fully express herself because she's in the voting booth and people are, 20 meters away.
It's a great moment. I too was surprised with how fast she got it out. Again, I think the most interesting thing is we're gonna see Maggie probably burn just keys, to upgrade something that can't be upgraded. And it's also curious, like, is this other only idol in the game? Will it be rehidden somewhere similar? Who knows? But congrats to me. That's a massive. That's to give her some wings this game, and I'm excited to see it.
Also, Stephen, like episode 2, you called the location and I had to do my best to keep my face from expressing that you were correct about knowing where the idol was. And it was a guess, but like you nailed it. So that's really fun. So yeah, May has an idol. So now even though seemingly red seemingly only has 3 people, blue has what? 6, but at kind of Ryan via Carlos. Red has something. They have a tool. So yeah. Anybody else before we get into like Bloomy points? Jordan, Rachel, Steven. Any other
A few things. I got some. Okay, one, Ryan saying playing with house money was just so fun because I don't think I would have had that perspective going in from Redemption. I think I would have been stressed. And so I hope he's able to use that mentality and that perspective to carry him and like stay calm and keep making calculated decisions. Someone else mentioned there's keys versus relationships. So I think that's a key theme that we can keep watching for, because how are these keys, are they going to keep being blown or maybe misused? And then maybe you get the idol, but do you have the relationships to sustain and make sure you play it the right way? So I want to keep an eye on that. And then I wanted to go back to Eric because he has such this terrible reputation. He's just the clown around camp and he's causing all this chaos. But he keeps saying, I'm always doing what I say I'm going to do. And he literally does. So on one hand, if you're watching Eric, and like I had this villain persona of Eric in my head watching back. And so I'm seeing this, I'm like, yep. And then really though, he is doing what he says and he's not being this big liar player that maybe it's not matching his perception. And I love the trickle truth because isn't that Survivor trickled truth? Like, that's what happens. It trickles down, and then what's your perspective of that truth, and how do you explain that truth to someone else, and how does it shift and mold and trickle down and get us a story? And I was rooting for Savannah, and I loved how she talked about how you push your bodies in Survivor, in her exit confessional, like that you push yourself till you can't push anymore. And it circled back to the whole our lost chapters and how they're fighting, and you keep fighting even when the odds are so low. Like even two people are going in, that's enough hope to keep pushing, and maybe I can push a little bit further. So there were just a lot of things in this episode that I think are going to keep playing and we're going to see out. I think Casey's giving us little nuggets of the story to come.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the Eric thing. I think earlier on in the season, the edit maybe, or just Eric as a person, made it seem like he was going to be more of a big villain or like a final boss type of character. But like truly, like I guess if you consider like being direct to the point of maybe bluntness sometimes with people as villainous, then sure. But like he has been scrappy, he has been playing, he's not been going around lying and backstabbing. Like he's telling people to their face, like, yeah, I don't think we're gonna work together. He said he did this, he did it with Danny, he did it with Taylor this episode. Like, yeah, have a feeling we're not gonna be on the same side this time. Well, in the future. He's done it with Joelle. I don't know. Jordan, any other thoughts on any like quotes, moments, interactions from this episode before we dive into Bloomy points?
Casey just mentioned it in a comment, but I do want to say like the Brady appearance. I've watched the episode twice now, and that really, I loved that so much. I like cracked up both times. I thought it was a really cute, nice touch. Kind of bringing in another Bloomington player. So I really liked that.
Yeah, I like seeing the cameo from Brady, not only because that's my ally, but also because she's not there. It's nice to get to see some people who weren't there like for the season, and who I need to get Brady on this podcast. I'm sure she has a lot of thoughts. So I'll work on that. I'll see what I can do. Stephen, any other moments, quotes, interactions? Solid. Let's get into Bloomy points. This episode is going to be really lopsided because there are 4 of us, but who cares? They're fake points. So we're going to do a 3, a 2, and a 1, meaning 3 to the person who you felt had the best episode trajectory, is set up the best, use your own criteria, 2 for your second place and 1 for your third place. We're going to try and move pretty quickly through these. So I guess let's go around each and first give our 3 points, starting with Rachel, because I have not thought about mine until this moment.
Okay. 3 is like my top point person, right? Okay. I'm going to give it to Carlos. I think he really integrated. He was able to somehow pick up right where he left off, and he had been gone for a while. Like, that's not necessarily a guarantee that the relationships and connections you made day one are still going to be there when this much game has passed. And so I think he did a really good job of reintegrating, reconnecting, and making sure. He could have been an easy vote. There could have been discussion of he probably has something from redemption. He has all this power, but he's able to stay chill, stay calm and collected, and keep building those connections to make sure his name doesn't even come up.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick. I think I'm going to give mine to... Oh, I'll give my 3 to Eric. I mean, he went from being target number 1 to not even mentioned for the vote, despite being vulnerable. He's back with his people. Um, he immediately owned up and apologized and said, I'll make it up for you when a general group of people were called out and someone was venting frustration about it. He immediately said, yes, what you're feeling is valid. I'm sorry that I contributed to it. I will make up for it. And he's positioned well strategically, it seems, because now he's pivoted to being a shield. And so people aren't looking at him right now. Steven.
I'll give my 3 points to Joelle. It's hard when you are the target. And this was, as we heard, this was very back and forth last minute decision. And so anything you do to shift it off of you, whether it's leverage Carlos, purposely or accidentally look confident, like he did what he needed to do to take the step forward. And I think that's going to help then, just survive in the round. That's what matters. I think he played what he could and did everything he could to make it happen. So 3 to him.
For pretty much the same reason as Drew, my 3 are going to go to Eric. I really, like I said earlier, liked the way that he handled himself. He wasn't defensive at Tribal, just came right out with apologizing. Went from being number 1 target to not even mentioned. So Eric gets 3 in my book for this episode.
Devontae, to get points, you have to actually do well. And I have not seen anything of you in a couple episodes now. I will start off 2 points. 2 points to May. I think finding an idol like in a matter of 10 seconds of getting a clue for it, it's pretty crazy. Also, it's what she needed. She's allegedly being considered for cross tribal alliances, allegedly. And she did her part in the challenge. Also, queen of in a running challenge, figuring out how to strategically conserve energy. And she helped with cooking the merch feast, which is appreciated. So 2 points to May. Somebody else. Rachel. Oh, just kidding. I lied. Steven.
I'll go fast. 2 points also. 2 points also to May. When do you play the extra vote? When do you go for a power mischief? That's a hard call to make. She makes the right call and it pays off wonderfully for her. So 2 to her.
2 for May for me.
I'm going to give my 2 to Jacob. I think we talked about it earlier, but Jacob seems to be like pretty well insulated, building relationships with everyone. Seems to be in a pretty good position right now.
And for our 1 points, I'm torn. So I'm hoping somebody will give points to the person I don't pick. I'm going to go with Jacob Burklow Rogers. Please don't be mad at me, but I'm giving mine to Mariah. I think that she not only has the deep blue thing because they have their like type 4, but she also now has Ryan and Carlos. And I'm sure in the moment, Ryan and Carlos are beyond each other. They're perceiving Mariah as their closest ally, and Jacob is also perceiving Mariah as his closest ally. So, I mean, you have 3 people on the board looking at you as their number 1, plus she got immunity in a very funny way. Plus she still has an extra vote banked. So, Mariah.
I have Eric. Okay, I have Eric for 1. Similar to the reasons that Jordan said for 3. I just there's just not enough points to give everyone. But I think it's at least do a 1.
I'm very tempted to give my point to Jacob, but like I feel like we saw so much more of Mariah this episode, kind of building this additional lines. But I guess the balance you out, Drew, I will give to Jacob in the sense. I'll read this quote from JC. I feel that Jacob was so insulated. Saying his name is one of the most likely ways to bounce back on the person saying his name. I think there's a lot behind the scenes that'll be unfolded in the future, and Jacob's fingerprints are on it.
Yeah, I think all of the names brought up are really good choices. Eric, Jacob, May, Mariah, Carlos. I think those are all five very good choices for the episode, and it's hard to decide between them, but alas, the things we do. All right, we have like 2 minutes left. But before we go, so Jordan and I are spoiled, even though our memories have lots of gaps in them. But I always like to ask Steven for predictions. But before I hear Steven's predictions, I want to hear Rachel's predictions. Rachel, you won Bloomington. Surely your prediction is going to be accurate, and you're going to tell me right now who the winner is.
Longest reigning winner because of the delay. I feel like I still got the crown now, baby. No. My prediction on who's going to win. I don't know. I'll tell you who I'm rooting for. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. There's too many. I can see. Oh, Maggie or Jacob. I think I can see them at in game. That's what I'll say. And then I have a fun thing I want to share to conclude us out when we're done with this.
Okay. And Rachel, you don't have the crown. I have the crown that we found in that tree. And you are the one who coined me as King Drew. So let's calm down with the crown talk. Steven, predictions, thoughts, how are we moving forward? You were right that a red was taken out at merge.
Just not the
So
red, just not the right red for my draft team. I think we're going to see one more go home. I think it's going to be either Taylor or Joelle, and then the blue will start eating its own.
all right. Well, Rachel, I think you had some commentary maybe on the World Cup.
Stay with me. Okay. Last night. Yeah, see, it's I am the longest reigning winner. So there. No crown needed. But all that to say, last night was one of the most historical World Cup games we've ever seen, Mexico and England. And partially because of where it was, partially because where things were happened. But before the game even began, one of the announcers is a previous player. And he's like, you can just feel the energy in the stadium. Like, I wished I was out there. And the guy next to him was like, really? You wish? He's like, I wish I could get my shoes on right now and be out there. And so I don't have that experience with sports. But then later that night, I'm catching up on Bloomington, and I'm watching these last years, which was brilliant. It could have just been a boring recap episode, but Casey draws us in. And I have not wanted to play an LRG in a long time. I feel like I've had some really good experiences. I'm happy. But when I've started watching these and seeing the grit that these players, I'm like, oh, I want to be out in the woods again. Like, I want to be out there. And that's just Casey's storytelling is just, it's top level. It draws you in. You want to be a main character again, or a side character, or the fool, or the clown. I don't care. I just want to be there. End of story. I just thought this season was so emotionally charged, and just seeing it, I just feel it building, and I wish I could have seen it live, but I'm also enjoying this experience of seeing all these people just play their hearts out, and the stories that Casey's able to tell, even in these small moments, is really, really special. And that's all I have to say.
This is why I love Surviving Bloomington. I'm like so warm and fuzzy. It sounds like we'll be seeing Rachel out there in All Stars with Brady and Eric while they fight it out over Eric's shirt. So y'all have fun. I can hold the camera. So Rachel can't vote me out again. But with that, Jordan, you got anything going on?
I'm just working on my Survivor audition tape. That's all.
Oh, well, I would love to see you out there.
So.
Rachel, you've got anything going on?
We just did filming the Mole, Ohio. And I believe episodes will come out in August or early September. There's a lot of unprecedented things that happen again as last season. So if you want to change it up from Survivor, the Mole, Ohio, keep an eye out.
And Steven, what have you got going on?
Calling out Tim, the editor of Ohio. If you just want to delay it a year, let me bask my victory a little bit more and be the longest running winner, I'd be okay with that too. But I am. It's been a little bit starting touch and go with Surviving Real Foot, but I will be doing another deep dive this Wednesday with the 7th place player, 6th place player, Rafa. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. And for me, I'm getting into the process of planning some of these Bloomington 7 deep dives, specifically with the pre-jury, pre-merge players. We'll start those up at some point whenever I can like sit down and actually speak to each person one-on-one to see what they want to do. But Stephen and I will be back at some point next week, hopefully, after the next episode, which I believe will air this coming Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, don't forget to subscribe to Surviving Bloomington and follow them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as live reality games on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and LRG Casting to see what other games are available near you. Rachel was lovely and actually a few weeks ago sent me a game that I was like, I did not know this existed, and it's kind of near me. So make sure to follow them. Yes, Surviving Bloomington has confirmed next episode Saturday at 8 Eastern. So make sure you watch, and Steven and I will do our best to keep you guys aware of when we'll see you next, and hopefully we'll have some more fun guests next time. I really appreciate both of you ladies giving us some female perspective.
Thank you so much.
And I very certainly lack that.
Thanks for having us on.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, y'all.